Welcome to Freethought Matters. I'm Annie Laurie Gaylor, co-founder of the Freedom from Religion Foundation.
And I'm Dan Barker. Annie Laurie and I are the executive directors of the Freedom from Religion Foundation, which produces this show. FFRF has more than 30,000 non-religious members across the country, and we work to protect the besieged constitutional principle of the separation between state and church.
Please join us at ffrf.org or ask for a free copy of our newspaper, Freethought Today.
We're delighted today to have as our guest Roslyn Mould, who is the former president of the Humanist Association of Ghana in West Africa. She coordinates the West African Humanist Network. Roslyn has degrees in linguistics. I think she speaks 4 or 5 languages in Ghanaian languages. She has degrees in modern languages from the University of Ghana. She helped organize the first ever West African Humanist Conference in 2012. I bet that was a lot of work. And she organized a second conference in 2014. So Roslyn, it's so nice to have you here to talk with us all the way from Africa.
Thank you for having me here.
We can compare notes about what humanists and non-believers are doing. It must be very difficult in your country.
Yes, it is. In a country which is like full of religion, there's so much dogma, superstition, and all kinds of beliefs, surrounded by beliefs of the supernatural from childhood throughout your lifetime, in schools, at home, everywhere you go, at the workplace. So coming out and thinking out of the box is not something that is very common. And so it's been quite a journey, but then we've been able to try to promote critical thinking and get more people to realize that there's an alternative way of thinking.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, that's encouraging.
So what is the makeup by religion in Ghana?
We have 60% of Christians and about 30% of Islam, which is mostly in the northern part of the country. And the rest, we have 5% nuns from the last survey.
Nuns like N-O-N-E?
N-O-N-E,
yeah.
S.
Yeah.
And the rest are from other minority religions like Buddhism, Hinduism, and the likes. Yeah.
And what about the separation of religion and government in Ghana? Technically, it's a fairly new constitution in Ghana?
Yes. Ghana is the first African country to have gained independence in 1957 from the British. And we had our own colonial system from the British, which we inherited from their constitution. But then it was renewed in 1992 after there was a series of coups to get the leader to change the constitution. We are still having certain laws from the British times. The constitution is based on, technically based on secularism. However, because it's highly religious in our country, 97% or 95% religious, so obviously it's really difficult to separate people's beliefs from the way they govern the country. And so very much a lot of decisions made in our parliament is based on people's beliefs and their identities.
Well, we have that problem in this country too, to a different degree, but it's hard to keep state and religion separate. But it must be very difficult in your country.
It's very, very difficult.
What about public schools? Or are the schools public, and is there religion in the schools?
Yes, there's a lot of public schooling. Even right from independence, there was free education for all back then, and they've tried to bring that till now. The thing is, like I said, if all your teachers are religious and strongly believe that the only way to teach you to be a moral, good person is through religion, then all schools, become religious schools. You have to pray before you start school in your classrooms and so on. But then with colonization came the missionaries, especially from the Church of England and the Catholic Church. And so we have a lot of churches from these two denominations who also came with schools, and the best schools actually are mostly Catholic schools, and hospitals as well. And so it's also kind of was part of the way for them to convert Africans at the time, or Ghanaians at the time, to change from their traditional way of worship to Christianity. So a lot of people, got converted that way. If you want to go to the best schools, you have to be Christian to attend these schools.
So the schools did teach literacy and reading, at least. That was
Yes.
one good thing they did, huh?
Yes, but then they are based on Catholic principles
Yeah.
and Catholic beliefs or Anglican beliefs and so on, like religious beliefs. So there's always church before, and
Yeah.
church and God before your education. Yes.
So, Roslyn, you said that there's still so much impact on the laws from the old British laws.
Yes.
What about gay rights and homosexuality in Ghana?
Wow, thanks for asking that question. It's actually one of the main things we've been working on because it comes from an old British colonial rule, which states about making it illegal to have unnatural carnal knowledge. This has been interpreted and used to discriminate against the LGBTQ community in Ghana for many, many years. And to remove that law has become really difficult. And in fact, because a lot of people are not being prosecuted for being gay or lesbian or bisexual, there's this new wave of charismatic evangelical Christianity, especially backed by American evangelicals,
That's right.
has become, one of the most difficult things we've been working with right now, because they are pushing for the laws to even be made stricter and to either introduce conversion therapy for gay people in our country or give them the alternative of going to prison or being prosecuted for being gay, lesbian, or bisexual.
And what about reproductive rights in Ghana?
We have laws for abortion rights, and we have access to contraceptives. However, maybe for certain denominations like the Catholic Church, that does not really encourage a lot of use of these contraceptives. But the Catholic Church is just one of the many denominations. So people do use it, especially with the prevalence of HIV/AIDS in sub-Saharan Africa and Africa in general. So there's been this whole advocacy for people to use condoms and other things like that. But for abortion rights, it's not clearly stated that it's legal. You can't just walk up to a clinic to get an abortion. Most of the time, it's at the discretion of the doctor to grant based on their beliefs or not. And if they do, you have to tick one of 3 boxes to declare whether you are, according to the law, they use the word idiot. That is mentally ill. It's supposed to mean mentally ill. However, they use the word, you have to say you're an idiot.
Wow.
Or you are unable to take care of the child, or, so if you're able to tick in any of those 3 boxes, or you've been sexually assaulted, then you can be granted an abortion. But that is still at the discretion of the doctor to see.
Now, I think I read that if you come out as a humanist or atheist in Ghana, there can be a lot of repercussions, and sometimes even being accused of being a witch.
Yes.
So there's still that kind of, the idea of witchcraft is still prevalent in Ghana?
The idea of witchcraft is just not stemming from a religious point of view. It's also traditional and cultural. So especially in the northern parts of Ghana, Ghana is the only African country that actually has witch camps. About 6 of them are in existence right now. And in the southern part, it's more Christian. So there's also witchcraft accusation. However, we don't have witch camps. It's mostly stigmatization from your family and friends and isolation and a lot of discrimination that goes on. As an atheist, if you're accused of witchcraft, they usually, when you come out at the wrong time or, to the wrong people, they could send you to churches for deliverance. Some people are sent to prayer camps. Some people, we have a lot of our members that have been through very difficult times. Sometimes they are emotionally blackmailed by family and friends that we are not going to continue your education. We are not going to support you in any shape or form unless you come back to the church or the mosque or
What's
whatever.
a witch camp?
So basically, the witch camp is it's supposed to be a safe haven for those who have escaped mob lynching, after being accused of witchcraft. So most of the women have been, most of them are women. 99% of the victims are women. However, most of them are older women, and unless you are given a hint or a tip-off that they are going to come get you or something, some of them are able to escape to these witch camps. Unfortunately, these witch camps are very, very poor areas. There's no access to water. The nearest water body is miles away. You have to go and fetch water from there. There's no food, no health care. and so on. So it's very, bad conditions, but it's, the only choice they have from being killed from their villages. So when they are banished from their village, that's where they flee to. And these kind of places do not even, it's kind of like it's ruled by a fetish priest or a traditional priest, where some countries will call it a shaman. And so it's kind of like a place where nobody can touch them or kill them. They believe that your witchcraft stays within that zone. But, they are still living in very poor conditions in those witch camps.
Well, you have said that religion is really what is, and superstition is what is holding Ghana back.
Yes.
From progress, huh?
Yes. I do believe strongly that it's religion, because if you take away a lot of what people have in terms of their beliefs, it would help solve a lot of our problems that we have. At the end of the day, if you look at the problems that Ghana has, economically, socially, or anything, it boils down to what people believe. People are not able to stand up to their leaders or hold our leaders accountable for corruption and other issues because of the fear of God, or the fear of this authoritative figure, especially if you have a president that claims that he was elected because of God, because God has graced him, or he was blessed from God, or he was anointed to be the president of a country. Then they use the phrase "touch not my anointed" from the Bible. Wow. To say that you cannot oppose somebody who has been ordained by God to be the president of the country.
So where have we seen that before? Even in our country, people make that claim. Gives them like a hierarchy of a higher level that you're not supposed to challenge. And maybe that's the problem with religion, is it treats people like sheep. You have to be submissive, and you need to put your head down and let the leaders take over.
Exactly.
Well, when we come back from the break, I want to ask you why and how you started your group of humanists, because that's very fascinating. We're talking with Roslyn Mould from Ghana. She's one of the directors of the Humanists of West Africa.
Hi, I'm Ron Reagan, an unabashed atheist, and I'm alarmed by the intrusions of religion into our secular government. That's why I'm asking you to support the Freedom from Religion Foundation, the nation's largest and most effective association of atheists and agnostics, working to keep state and church separate, just like our founding fathers intended. Please support the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Ron Reagan, lifelong atheist, not afraid of burning in hell.
I'm Doug Hara, and I'm an out-of-the-closet atheist. I consider myself fortunate in that I wasn't raised in an overly religious family, so I was allowed to think for myself. And around the time I was 17, as I was exploring these ideas of religion, I was told by a fundamentalist Christian that my grandmother, who had emigrated from Japan, was destined to eternal damnation because she was a Buddhist. And I couldn't accept that, and it kind of unraveled from there for me. So at this point in my life, I've become very comfortable with the idea that I don't need religion or belief in God to be a moral person and live an ethical life. I'm proud of the fact that I have 2 daughters who have grown up to be wonderful young women, and I'm proud to say also atheist.
Thank you for watching Freethought Matters. You can find more content by the Freedom from Religion Foundation at our website, ffrf.org. Follow FFRF on Facebook, and you'll get notifications about all of our content, including whenever we go live on FFRF's Ask an Atheist. FFRF is also on YouTube, where all of our programs, including this show and our weekly news bites, are available to watch anytime. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the web.
And welcome back to Freethought Matters. We're talking with Roslyn Mould. She's the coordinator of the West African Humanist Network. We're talking about the status of atheists and humanists in Ghana, where she's from, and in West Africa in general. So Roslyn, how in the world, I know there's a great need to promote humanism, but how did you find other people, and how did the group? You were one of the original people, right? How did that happen?
So sometime in 2012, there were a number of people coming out on social media, especially on Twitter, which was quite new at the time in Ghana for the youth. And they were able to come out and speak about their ideas and why they think that religion is something that should not, they don't have the beliefs in it, and they don't think that it's something that everybody should have, and, pointing out the contradictions in the Bible and things like that. And eventually they decided to meet in person. One of the people that met, one of the 11 of them that met for the first time was my younger sister. And from there, she informed me about the group, and I became a part of it. And by the end of that year, we organized, with the help of now Humanist International, it was then International Humanist and Ethical Union and the youth organization, that helped to sponsor the first West African Humanist Conference. And I was part of the volunteers that helped to set up that conference, which was a very big success and actually helped me to come out at the time. I was still closeted, and I hadn't informed many of my family and friends, but meeting other West African humanists from Liberia, Sierra Leone, Nigeria, and them telling their stories and the work they're doing just fascinated me. We also did a lot about the kind of activist work we could do, in terms of gay rights and so on, where we even had a prominent Christian lawyer who was the only one then working really hard on LGBT rights. And so she gave us a whole overview or an insight into what it takes to be an activist and help as allies. And I learned a lot from that. And that was when we decided to become an association and register it and see how we can create a bigger, safer space for non-religious people, especially atheists, agnostics, skeptics, free thinkers in general. So we had the Freethought Ghana meetings, which we've had every month since 2012 till date, and we continue to do. And then when we decided to have an executive membership, I was then made elected as organizing secretary, and from then the next year I was acting president, and I became president of the group. And it was coincidentally around the same time I was given positions in the International Humanist and Ethical Youth Organization as secretary, and then eventually I became chair of the African Working Group. Wow. So I was not only working for Ghanaian humanism, I was working for African humanism in general. And now I'm currently board member on at the Humanist International.
That's how we met you, because of that group. Yeah.
In Iceland,
yes.
Of all places.
I know.
Do you have a website? Does your group have a...
Yes, it's GhanaHumanists.org.
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 So, Roslyn, before we talk more about the activities that you do in Accra, and maybe the humanist weddings and things, can you tell us about your own background?
Yeah, so I was raised Catholic. My mother's side of the family is Catholic, and my dad's side is from the Church of England, Anglican. But they baptized me as a Catholic. I went to Catholic schools from primary school to high school. And I became a bit more evangelical sometime in senior high school. However, during the time I was in the university, I had a lot of friends. I was a top model in the fashion industry in Ghana, in West Africa in general. And I had made a lot of friends in the entertainment industry, in the expat communities. I noticed that there were people in expat communities that, especially from Eastern Europe, that were not religious, and that fascinated me. And I felt that it was my duty as a Christian to inform them more about it, and it was my duty to learn more about religion so that I could preach to them in a way. Unfortunately, or fortunately for me, that was what got me to deconvert myself after a series of documentaries and paying closer attention to what the Bible says and putting aside what I had been taught and trying to get an objective view of what religion was and why we believe what we believe. And yeah, in that process, I deconverted myself.
So you learned too much.
I learned. No, I think that sometimes I realized that a lot of times our media in Ghana, they show documentaries about, during Easter, they will show about the resurrection. But then I realized that the documentaries I came to watch later on were unbiased. The ones they had been showing every year on the TV screens about Christmas and about Easter and so on were biased. They were only theologians who were dictating that narrative. But I watched other documentaries where we had archaeologists, historians who were telling the stories of how it could have been in Israel or Bethlehem or Nazareth at the time. And it was completely different, contradictory, messages. And I am somebody who trusts evidence and science. So I was, I actually went through the stages of grief because I didn't understand why I had been taught, the wrong thing.
The lies.
Lies, basically, yes, to put it simply, for all my life. But then I also came to accept that it wasn't the fault of my parents or my teachers or, my co-workers or my colleagues, my friends, because it is all they've grown to know. And I think that is what drives me to talk more about it, because I feel like if I had known, if somebody had spoken out about alternative ideas of non-belief, I would probably have been atheist a long time ago. And so I feel like there's somebody out there who is looking for information like this, and that should drive us to speak up about it and how we feel about evidence-based, science-based evidence and stuff like that.
So could you tell us more about what the Humanists of Ghana does? And I also understand that you met your husband that way.
Yes, I met my life partner through the Humanist Association of Ghana. And it's become a family to me. It's the only safe space we have. Humanist Association of Ghana has become the umbrella group for all non-religious people in our country. And we have other groups in other parts of the country that affiliate themselves to us. And everybody knows, whether you are Ghanaian or foreign, if you come to Ghana, you need to get away from the dogma. Every once in a while, you know where to find us. And we have our meetings monthly, and we have other programs. I think that from the beginning, everybody felt they were alone. And a lot of times, every new person that comes to a group is just, so, you are welcomed, you feel like you are part of something that you never thought you would have because of all the religious and traditional beliefs that surround us in our society.
Even in the United States, we still get people saying, "I thought I was the only atheist in Montana," or
wow.
There's still that isolation.
Yes, so you can imagine in a place like Ghana, 95% religious. I mean, there's nothing on TV that shows an alternative narrative, and so it's also helped us to think of other ways that we can let people know. We started the Hacktivist podcast, Hagtivist, which is like a coin of HAG, as in Humanist Association of Ghana, and our activism, where we do kind of like our meetings to discuss all the things that we never got to discuss. Growing up, you're not allowed to speak about a lot of things. Children are to be seen and not heard. And so there were a lot of people who grew up not being able to question anything because society or our parents and our family don't encourage that kind of questioning, especially if you're questioning about whether the existence of God or gods. And so this was a space where we could actually have those discussions. If you wanted to talk about sexuality, then this is the time you could talk about it. It was something that was not encouraged. It's something we don't talk about. And so a lot of people were in the closet or did not understand a lot of things about themselves and certain beliefs. The idea of marriage, and we met a lot of people, even religious people, who don't know that there's something like a humanist wedding, because the only thing, a lot of people ask me, you are atheist, so how are you going to get married? And that's it's usually the first question or the second question after, so how do you think we were created? Those are usually the frequently asked questions I get. And so I realized that a lot of people feel that they won't be able to get married or be with a partner unless they are religious. And so I think that for Kobna and I, our marriage has served as like a symbol or an example that it's possible to have that, and not just have a humanist wedding, but to have a relationship based on equality. That's also very, very rare, and a lot of people don't understand what it means to be equal to a man as a woman, or to live as equals together in a relationship or in a friendship or as a society or as a community, like what we have in Humanist Association.
Well, that's feminism then, basically.
Yes,
yeah, for women and for men. So.
And for men. And so, yes, Kobna, who is currently president of Humanist Association of Ghana, my life partner, has become the face of male feminists or men feminists.
Maybe you can find a picture we can put up to show.
Definitely,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. And Roslyn, what are some of the other campaigns that the Humanists of Ghana are doing?
So primarily, our group has been based on promoting critical thinking and creating a safe space for non-religious people. However, we've done a lot of campaigns for creating a book drive for children in more deprived schools, and also anti-witchcraft campaigns, working with the HSC, Humanist Service Corps, an American organization, to help victims of alleged witchcrafts, and also gay rights, LGBT rights. We have become the biggest allies in Ghana for that, and working, to promote women's rights in general and equality.
Wow. So we only have 2 minutes left here. Ghana was the first African country to gain independence from European colonization. Yes. Maybe Ghana will be the first country to gain independence from religion with your work,
Yes.
Maybe.
Yeah. We are hoping to be the beacon of non-religion, the face of non-religion. And we want to show that there is a friendly, moral, ethical face of non-religion in Africa. And we can still make it without the religion, without the dogma, and without the enforcing of people's beliefs or imposition of beliefs on people.
Wow.
Well, hear. And thank you for joining us today on Freethought Matters, and for being the leading voice for Freethought in Africa.
Thank you, Anne-Laurie.
And thank you for watching Freethought Matters.
Because free thought matters.
Hi, I'm Steve Pinker. In my book, Enlightenment Now, I show that the world has become a better place as reason has been overcoming superstition and tribalism. But the values of the Enlightenment are under attack. That's why I'm a proud member of the Freedom from Religion Foundation, the nation's largest association of free thinkers working to keep state and church separate. Please join me in supporting the Freedom from Religion Foundation to ensure that our government is driven not by religion, but by reason.